While monotasking is undoubtedly one of those buzzwords that has become more and more common lately, there's a good reason for this. I don't know about you, but my attention span is not what it used to be. When I was a kid, I could read or do pretty much anything else for hours on end, my focus solely on that one thing. Now, as an adult who uses social media, similar to almost everyone else, I would say, my attention span is lacking. I've been much more intentional with my social media use in the past couple months, and let me tell you, it has been eye-opening. There are times where I spend weeks not watching short-form content online, and in that time, I feel myself going back to who I was before. And then, overtired in the evening, I tell myself I'll just watch a couple of cat reels, and before I know it, an hour has gone past. We can point the blame at any number of things, being overtired and not having energy to do anything else, how social media is designed to be addictive, but the heart of the matter is we're the ones who are in charge of what we spend our time on. Personally, I'm the one who's deciding to watch a few cat reels, and so I have to be the one to decide not to do that, because clearly moderation does not work in this area of my life. Anyway, back to monotasking. I've found my inattention sliding into multiple areas of my life, including my hobbies, and I'm not too happy about that. It may just be in my nature, but I tend to work on a number of different projects within the same hobby at the same time, and honestly, it's getting a little tiring. I want to work on one knitting project, one sewing task, one novel at a time. I don't need to have 3, 4, or 5 going all at once. And so this week, I'm trying hard to be intentional about monotasking, about putting all my energy into the task at hand and finishing one thing before starting the next. More than anything else, this is an experiment. While I hope for lasting change, I understand that this is me dipping my toes into the water and hopefully starting on a new or old path toward healing my attention span. I have you on a different tripod right now, and by accident I clicked some button that I've never clicked before, and it tells me that the background is now defocused, which I had no idea this camera could do. I've had this camera for almost a year now, and I just haven't learned how to use it, which is kind of silly and very characteristic of who I am as a person, and that's okay. But I don't have my glasses on, so I can't actually tell if the background is defocused. But I'm sure I'll figure that out when I'm editing this. And if it's not, I kind of want to figure out how to do that with this camera. I can do it with my big camera, which I have right here. This is the one that I use for close-up shots and blurred background and stuff. But if this one can do that as well, do I need 2 cameras? I don't know. Anyway, what I actually came on here to talk about was monotasking. And so, as you know by now, I'm generally working on too many knitting projects at once. And I had a lot that were almost done but not quite, and I was just putting them off because I didn't want to do the hard bit. But I wanted to show you the 2 things that I finished yesterday, which I'm very excited about. So this is, you probably can't tell, but it's moss stitch. It has this really beautiful texture to it, and it was supposed to be a shawl at one point in time. But I was getting down on the ball of yarn, and I went back to buy another one. And it was one of those cases where it was just completely not there. And then I looked it up online and it was discontinued. Can you tell that this is a pattern for me? Choosing yarn that has been discontinued? I don't know why I keep doing that. Anyway, I decided to instead make it into a dish towel, which you might not think is very exciting, but I think is very exciting. I kind of want to knit all of my own dish towels from here on out and slowly get rid of the ones that I've bought. Because I wish you could see the texture of this, and the green is perfect for me as well. So I'm very, very happy that this is a dish towel instead of a shawl. Now this one, this was a monster of a project. I'm exaggerating, of course. It wasn't that hard, but I'm used to working with chunkier yarn and bigger needles, and so this took me probably about 3 months to finish. And I actually made it because I made my sister a similar scarf for Christmas. It was a bit shorter, and I focused on it so I could get it done in time. But this one I meandered through, and I kept starting and stopping. But the other day I finally made myself finish the final panel, tuck in all the loose ends on the side, and add the tassels. And it's still a bit chilly outside right now, even though it is like middle of March. And so I am happy I get to wear this before the warm weather arrives, although I am really, really ready for warmer weather as well. So if I only get to wear this once or twice, I'm not going to complain. However, as with everything, self-improvement is a process and monotasking does fall into that. And I'm prefacing that because I bought another ball of yarn while I was at Michael's this morning. I was looking for something else for a project that I'm working on. But then of course I strayed over to the yarn and I bought this. Guess what? It's for another toque. I've had my eye on this color for like a really, really long time. And the way I'm justifying it is over the past week, I think I finished 4 knitting projects that were in varying states of doneness. And also one of these toques probably takes me like hour and a half max. Like it's not a long process. And so this is my little treat to myself for finishing all the projects that I hadn't been wanting to work on. And I mean, hopefully by the time this video comes out, this toque will already be done. I actually don't know. I'm hoping that, but we'll see. I'm going to an art party on Saturday where everyone just like brings their art to work on and hangs out. And I was thinking of bringing my pencil crayons, but then I was like, I have so much knitting that I want to get done that I have to get done. So I think I'll probably take this and the sweater that I'm working on currently. But yeah, it feels so nice to finish projects that were just like lurking in my house for the past, I don't know how many months, and just having less projects to work on in general. Okay, so while this next task isn't necessarily monotasking, it is something I've been putting off for way too long. If you didn't know, carrots and parsnips can overwinter if they're left in the ground. Unfortunately, this is something I take advantage of in an I'll do it later sort of way. It's been on my list for about 2 months now to pull out and clean the rest of the carrots, and guess what? I didn't do it, which is obvious by me filming this part of the video. The good thing is these carrots were still in perfect condition. I think only 1 or 2 had split from the moisture, which is pretty good considering. This past winter wasn't all too cold. We actually only got snow once, tragically, so I think that likely contributed to it. I'm so glad I finished this now though, because it'll be gardening season before I know it. I'm already at the point where I can start planting some seeds indoors actually. And this is actually the latest I've ever left it. I will be picking up my remaining seeds soon, so you'll likely see that in a video in the near future. A little side note, I used these carrots in a soup I made for friends one evening, and these carrots, they were honestly so good. They were still so sweet, which was a really nice surprise. You know what's so weird is I didn't notice how long my hair has gotten until like being on camera right now. Maybe it's because I'm like closer to it and I can actually see in the viewfinder. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, that's not important whatsoever. I wanted to pop back in and talk about just like how this week of monotasking has gone. So for someone with a brain that works the way my brain does, focusing on one task at a time is very, very hard. Obviously that comes from like social media use and stuff as well. Like all of our attention spans are worse than they were before. Just the way mine is wired, it makes it a little like extra hard, I think. But the whole thing went like relatively well, I would say. I did end up doing 2 coats of paint on the back of the stairs, and so I'm hoping tonight I'm gonna do at least 1 coat on the top, maybe 2 depending on when I start. I did end up finishing the sleeve of a sweater, and I did not keep working on that sweater. I instead started working on that toque with the green yarn that I bought. And while that is not monotasking in the slightest, I did at least finish the sleeve before moving on to the toque. Whereas in the future, I probably would have like been halfway through the sleeve and be like, I'm gonna start on the toque, and so like have a half finished sleeve and then like a partly finished toque. So it's like baby steps, right? Everything I do seems to be in baby steps. I keep saying to people, I'm like, oh, I'm not watching reels anymore. And then all of a sudden one night it'll be 10 p.m. and I've watched like an hour of reels. And I'm really trying hard not to do that. And this week especially, I tried not to do that because I know that watching reels makes my attention span even worse. And like, I would say I did notice a difference in my attention span this week, just from like not watching reels and also trying to do one task at a time. Not like a huge difference, but I think that if I keep doing this, keep not watching reels, or at least like not falling into a hole of like doom scrolling them, and trying to focus on like one project at a time, I think I can fix my attention span. I think I'll probably do a check-in in like a few months if I can, continue to do this. Because it is hard. It is hard to like start new habits and like completely change like how your brain functions and like how you function in the world. So I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to like put these weird restrictions on myself like I usually do. I'm gonna try and monotask for like as many things as I can. But if I find myself distracted or like hopping between projects, I'm not gonna beat myself up over it, because that is not how you build habits. Anyway, it's pretty late in the week and I do need to start editing for the newspaper today, so I think I'm gonna end this here. As always, I hope you got something out of this video, even if it was just like general enjoyment or like a sense of calm. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.